Today's demo is to look at cheese scones. So these are the ingredients we're going to need for cheese scones. Firstly, we'll look at the nutrients provided. So we have got self-raising flour here. That's going to provide us with starchy carbohydrate. Then we have got some milk here, which is a dairy, so it'll provide us with protein and a little bit of fat. We've got margarine, which will provide us with fat. And then we have got some hard cheese here for our cheese scones. And that will provide us with some fat, with some protein, and with some calcium. We've also got some mustard powder here, and that will just provide us with some flavour. First step is to turn on the oven. So we're going to switch on the oven at the wall. We're then going to come to the front of the cooker and we're going to look at all the dials. We're going to come down here because we're going to look at the main oven, and that's indicated because of the spot there. We're going to turn it on to 222 degrees centigrade and we're going to preheat the oven. The little light here indicates that it's heating up, and we need to make sure it switches off before we put in the scones today. First task is to prepare our tray. So we have got a baking tray here and we have got flour inside a flour dredger, and we are just going to sprinkle flour across the tray, and that will prevent the scones from sticking. The next step is to sieve our flour, and the reason that we sieve flour is to get air in and to take any lumps out. So I'm just tapping the sieve onto my hand until all the flour is through. Next, we're going to add in half a teaspoonful of mustard powder. So that's half a teaspoonful. And we're going to sprinkle that in. That's going to help with the flavour today. And then we are going to just mix that in with our hands. And we are going to add in the margarine. So when we add in the margarine, we are going to use the rubbing in method. And the rubbing in method is where we use the fingertips. Now these are the coldest part of our hands. And what we're going to do is we're going to rub the fat into the flour. Sometimes this is known as the waterfall effect. And you'll remember this technique from making your apple crumble. So today we are going to develop that technique from the crumble mixture into scones. So we're going to form a dough and we're going to shape a dough, and then we're going to bake the dough. So remember, fingertips, because they're the coldest part of your hands. To check, to see if it's ready, we're going to shake our fingers on the inside of the bowl. We're going to shake the bowl, and any large lumps will come to the top, and that's when you just need to keep rubbing them in until it resembles breadcrumbs. So the idea is, what we're trying to do there is we're trying to layer the flour particles with a layer of fat, so when it goes into the oven, the fat is absorbed in the flour, and that creates your lovely texture to your scones. The next stage is to grate our cheese. So first of all, we're going to use our bridge grip and we're going to cut our cheese in half to make sure it's the right size to go inside the grater. Next, we're going to place in the grater, and then we're going to pop in the cheese into the top, and we're going to hold it down under pressure. Now make sure that the holes go down the way, and you're just going to turn it, and the grated cheese will come out onto our chopping board. We never put it on straight onto a bench, it's always onto a chopping board. And that's our cheese grated. Next it's time to add in the cheese, but we are going to leave a little bit for the top. So we're going to put a little bit to the side, and then we're going to add in the cheese, and we're going to give it a nice stir to make sure that it is evenly distributed throughout the mixture, because we don't want one scone to be cheesy and the others not. The next stage is to add the milk and to form the dough. We're going to make a little swell in the centre of our mixture, and then we're going to add in our milk. We're not going to add it all in, we're going to leave a little bit in here, and then we're just going to mix it with a knife. So I'm using a round bladed knife here, and what we want to form is a soft but not a sticky dough. So again, I'm not adding it all, and I'm going to mix it until we have a soft but not a sticky dough. Now this is important that we use a knife for this, because what we don't want to do is develop something called gluten, which will make our mixture stretchy. Always take time before when you're adding your milk, because what you'll find is after a little mix, you'll find that the dough starts to form together. I'm using our knife. Now, as you can see, the dough, without any help from me, has started to come away from the sides. It is soft, but it is not sticky. We're then going to use our hand and we're going to pull the dough together into a ball. Next stage is to lightly flour the surface. Make sure your bench is clean and you're going to place your dough onto the bench. And this is where a lot of people go wrong with their scones, because what they try to do is they try and get a rolling pin and they roll them out really thin like biscuits, and then they won't rise. So I'm going to show you a little trick here. So all we're going to do is we're going to pat down the dough. We're going to leave it to about 1 centimetre to 2 centimetres thick, and then that is it. We're not going to roll it out with a rolling pin, we're literally going to press it down with our hands. We're then going to use a scone cutter and we're going to cut out the scones. Now, you're not going to get much from this mixture, but if you're doing it at home, you can always double the mixture up to get more scones. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the outside. Don't go to the centre, go to the outside, and we're going to press down the scones. We're going to give it a little shake there, and then we're going to pop that scone straight onto our baking tray. Again, we probably can get another one there. We're going to give it a little shake, and then we're going to pop it straight onto our baking tray. Now, we've got some left and we're not going to waste it. But what we don't want to do is overwork the dough, because if we overwork the dough, you will develop gluten and your scones will not be as good texture. So we are just going to quickly form that again. I'm just going to put that one in the middle. So we've got 3 scones there, but 3 large enough scones that are going to rise well. And then we've got a piece left, so we never waste that. We always say it's for the fairies. And we're going to pop that onto our tray as well. And there's our scones nearly ready to go into the oven. We want to put a shiny top onto them, so what we were going to use is we're going to use a pastry brush. And remember the milk we had left? We're going to dip the pastry brush into the milk, and then we are just going to glaze the tops with a little bit of milk, and that will give us a shiny look to it. Next, we're going to add on that last bit of cheese. We're going to put a little bit of cheese on each one, and that will melt in the oven and create our cheese scones. So when these go into the oven, they're going to rise. It's going to be a hot temperature because it's 220 degrees centigrade. The self-raising flour has got its own raising agent, so that's going to help it rise quite rapidly. So it's going to activate and it's going to rise quite rapidly. The outside are going to turn golden brown, and that's because the starch in the flour turns to dextrin and it'll give you your golden brown colour. And then your cheese will melt. So what we're looking for golden brown and well risen. And that's going to take about 12 to 15 minutes. Remember, when you're putting them in the oven, you always use oven gloves, and you put your tray in landscape, not portrait. Come back in 15 minutes to see what they're like.